Hello, welcome to the People Profit Podcast, the show where we flip the script on traditional business thinking and prove that when you put people first, profits follow. I'm Sandra Coker, your guide on this journey to more engaged teams, loyal customers, and a healthier bottom line. These episodes are brought to you by Human Power Solutions, helping organizations unlock the human potential that powers performance. Whether you're a leader, an HR pro, or a curious change maker, buckle up. We're diving into fresh stories, real-world strategies, and a few laughs along the way. Ready to turn your workplace into a profit-powered people machine? Let's get started.
Welcome to the People Profit Podcast, based on my book, The People Profit, How to Improve Your Bottom Line by Investing in Those Above It. I'm your host, Sandra Coker, CEO of Human Power Solutions, where we inspire and guide organizations to create cultures that unlock every individual's potential. Today, I am so thrilled to have Cynthia Conigliaro with us. Cynthia is the owner and founder of Workwell Webinars, a company that's dedicated to designing and delivering virtual and in-person wellness presentations on emotional and physical health topics like sleep, resilience, mindset shifts, and healthy corporate cultures. With over 25 years in health and wellness, a BA in psychology from the College of the Holy Cross, an MSW and MBA from Boston College focused on organizational and group psychology, and certifications including Infinite Possibilities Trainer and Integrated Nutrition Coach. Whew, Cynthia, that's a lot. Cynthia spent the last 5 years at Organizational Wellness and Learning Systems, developing evidence-based programs to combat burnout, anxiety, and so much more. She's passionate about volunteer work with the Worksite Wellness Council of Massachusetts and All Paths Infertility support groups. So Cynthia, can you walk us through your leadership journey, with over 25 years in health and wellness, including all of your roles, and now a founder? What has sparked your passion for leadership, and why are you blending this this mental, physical, and organizational health all together?
Yeah. Well, geez, when I think back, right, over the past 25 years, there's been so many different kind of experiences, so much history with what I've done in the leadership space. But if I kind of think about how I've applied leadership to wellness, I've had so many different roles in the wellness industry. I actually started in personal training, which I believe you did as well, Sandy.
Yeah, I had a job for 7 years.
Yeah, right. So personal training, one-on-one nutrition coaching, health coaching, lots of group work, and lots of trainings and presentations and webinars, and basically trying to find ways to educate people about health and wellness, both from a physical as well as a psychological standpoint. I firmly believe that there's a lot of interaction between both. And when I'm talking with people, I like to focus on both physical as well as psychological components of wellness.
So in terms of leadership, I think having done corporate wellness, so I understand your space really well. I also understand the resistance, I guess you could say, of leaders to why this is so important. So when you kind of stepped out into this journey, how do you get leader? How did you decide that this is you're going to get leaders to get this?
That's a great question. It's been interesting for me to kind of witness what's gone on, like in the workplace, in terms of how workplaces are looking at wellness. What's I guess one of the few, in my opinion, positive outcomes of the pandemic is many more employers are interested in educating their employees about different aspects of health and wellness, be it, stress management, resilience, burnout, or the physical aspects, sleep strategies, healthy eating, just because I think employers are realizing that when the employee is happier, when the employee is healthier, he or she is less apt to, one, leave the company, more likely to be more productive, in the workplace. And there's just so many reasons why, improving your employees' health and wellness is beneficial.
Yeah. And you saw that early on. I mean, you've been doing this for a while, right?
Wow.
Yeah. And
Yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I have a whole series of webinars. I have about 25 of them, and they're kind of divided up into what I describe as 3 categories. So I have the traditional health and wellness. So it's what you would imagine, right? Like sleep strategies, menopause, healthy eating. And then I have the psychological components, the stress management, burnout, depression. And then I have the organizational. So the team building, leadership, culture, management. And it's been interesting to see what companies reach out about. It could be completely like not what I expect, so it's kind of great. I really like that. Like companies, I think, are recognizing the importance of really making sure that their employees are well versed in some of these topics.
Yeah. I remember when I was, when I had my gym, I bought my gym in 2008 and I had it through 2015. We really focused on corporate wellness. Like that was our driver. And, a few companies were really, they had us come on site and they had us do, lunch and learns and all that. And other companies, it was like, you're banging your head against the wall. Like, the employees would come out to work miserable, and stressed. And I'm like, introduce them to an HR person. And they would, and it would be like poo-poo, right? And it's like, so it's so fascinating how it's all kind of come together.
It really is. It really is.
And I think you're right. Like with COVID, it was bad, but there's some things that came out of it that I think are really going to benefit these next generations coming up here. So, I'm fascinated by your volunteer work because you do a ton of volunteer work. I know that you're on the Chamber of Commerce with me. You volunteer at the Worksite Wellness Council of Massachusetts, All Path and Fertility Support. How have these experiences, all this volunteer work, how does it shape your view on supporting people through life's challenges in a professional context?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so All Paths, that's been a really interesting experience for me, having gone through quite a bit myself with pregnancy loss and infertility, to be that person who's able to really just talk with groups of people about what they're going through and helping them to recognize the importance of really trying to, one, practice self-care when going through like this, really challenging experience of infertility and everything else. And just helping them to understand that they're not alone, really providing that safe space for these support groups and, encouraging the group to just feel comfortable sharing, feel comfortable expressing their sadness and their emotions. It's been a really powerful experience for me. And just to see their transformation, as we go through the weeks together and see how much they're really starting to feel more comfortable with, sharing how they're feeling is just so fabulous.
And so in a professional setting, not sure, but I would think that many of these people are working professionals and they're kind of going through this, in addition to having to, perform at work and all of that. Not that we share a lot of that kind of stuff at work, but what kind of advice do you give to leaders who don't necessarily know what's going on, but know something's going on and for how they can support their employees through difficult times?
Yeah. I think just being attuned to their employees, making sure they're checking in, it's interesting because, there's some fantastic employers out there, right? Yeah. Employers who are really attuned to what's going on with their staff. There's others maybe who are just not as focused on that aspect of the dynamic in the workplace. So I think just really encouraging leaders to focus on their employees. As you said in your book, employees are the most incredible resource for us, right? If we don't have employees that are dedicated and enthusiastic and everything else, it's really challenging to have, a growing organization. So just making sure that the leaders are, just aware of how their employees are doing. And I think you mentioned this in your book too, having those one-on-ones, for instance. Don't wait for that yearly review, right?
Yeah.
Trying to really make sure you understand what's happening in the personal life of my employee. Maybe I do want to check in. I know he or she's going through a difficult time. Maybe we want to give this person a little bit of time off, whatever it is, in order to just kind of improve the situation.
Love that. And this podcast, we really are focusing on helping these younger leaders kind of in their careers. And the one thing that I always say is don't be like my bosses were growing up, right? It's really, like you said, caring and being really in tune to what's happening. Because people's lives, especially with the remote work and the hybrid work, I feel like, there's no balance. It's just a blend. Like it's a big blender,
Definitely. No question. That's really one of my most popular webinar requests is for work-life balance. Yeah. And so I talk about work-life balance, and that's something I focus on. The fact, like you just said, like it's like a big blender. Many of us are working from home, and then those boundaries kind of get blurry, and it's almost like, wait, but I'm not supposed to be working on Tuesday night at 8:00. But
right.
And so what's happening is, I know really well, burnout. So many employees are getting burned out, and they're just not able to focus, and energy is going way down, as is productivity. Yeah. So important to look at your employees and what's going on.
I love that.
For sure.
Yeah. So you describe yourself as a transformational leader, which I love, as you saw in my book.
Yeah, definitely.
Can you explain what that means to you, especially in helping teams prioritize self-care, work-life balance, and mindset shifts? And, you just talked about, work-life balance, but can you talk a little bit about prioritizing self-care and the mindset shifts and what that means for you?
Yeah. I mean, I think when I said transformational, I really think of myself as someone who is focused on improvement and really trying to encourage other people. Maybe it's the people in my webinar, maybe it's the group that I'm leading, maybe it's the people in my training, but the people I'm talking with, I'm hoping for some kind of a transformation. And what I mean by that is I'm hoping that they'll change their mindset around whatever it is I'm talking about. I mean, I do talks on the impact of alcohol on the body and mind. I do talks on eating for longevity. I do talks on sleeping for mental and physical health. So whatever I'm talking about, I'm hoping the people who are listening will listen to what I'm saying and say, you know what, maybe I can change that. Maybe I can make those steps to, become X, Y, and Z, to do this a little bit differently. Just trying to help them to just consider altering what they're currently doing. I think that's a really exciting feeling on my end.
I love that. And I think taking your webinars and those nuggets and reading the book Atomic Habits and combining those two things, to be very helpful for people. Because I think a lot of times people think, oh, I've got to make this major change in my life, and I've got to just change. And it's incremental, right?
Baby step, right? Baby step
for sure.
That's awesome. And I would emphasize, like, it's progress, not perfection, right? I mean, we can't be perfect. I think sometimes people get a little bit stressed out. Like, I'll do talks on meditation, for instance, and people will say, I just can't meditate. My mind wanders. I can't focus. Well, my mind wanders too. And I've gone to weekend meditation retreats where, experts from around the world gathered, and their minds wander too. We talk about this, but it's not something that should, like, basically deter you from meditating. I try to encourage people to just remember that this isn't about perfection. It's just about, trying to think about maybe different ways of thinking and different, strategies you want to, kind of pursue.
Yeah, love that. I think that's so important. I never was a meditator. I was like, I couldn't do that. And now I can't live without it. I just do the guided meditation. It gets me to sleep. And I think, like you said, it's a little bit of a mindset shift for sure. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's great. We should talk about that one day, Sandy. I'd love to talk with you about that.
I know. We should. Yeah, I use Insight Timer. It's like the game changer for
That's
me.
what I use. I love that.
So it's free for them.
Yeah, it's great.
So, you noted like in today's workplace, you've noted that people are more open to wellness now, like we've just been talking about.
Yeah.
So thinking about the younger leaders, how can the leaders leverage emotional intelligence, which is huge, and the heart-centered approach to help improve the employee experiences in work, but also ultimately the bottom line. So talk a little bit about why that all kind of ties together.
Yeah. I mean, I think just being that leader that people can model, you want to be that person that your employees want to be like. You want to set the stage. You want to be the example that you want them to be. So for instance, I'm doing a talk on work-life balance, for instance. Well, if the leaders in that organization are not practicing work-life balance, then they're not setting the example, right? If they're emailing their employees on a Saturday morning or asking them to burn the candle at both ends, right? It's just not the best example. So I think setting the right example for your employees is kind of the most important way to start that process.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also, just like we talked about earlier, making sure the leader is really focusing on the employee and not just thinking about his or her work, but also on a personal level as well. If you notice that the employee, for instance, is just maybe burned out, not performing like he or she used to, checking in and maybe even trying to pull in other people on the team to help out, just asking for support, that kind of a thing.
It's funny. We facilitate, you and I both facilitate, and I'll ask people about their lunch breaks.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
What do you get? Like, I don't take lunch.
No, right.
And you're like, do you take lunch? No, I don't take lunch, but they can. Like, no, I can't.
I know. It's funny. There's certain companies that it's just the culture, right? It's just a workaholic culture, for sure.
Yeah.
There's certain industries that are known for that too, but I hate to stereotype, I hate to generalize, because I do speak with quite a range of industries. I just spoke with the Motion Picture Association of America a couple of weeks ago. That was super interesting.
That's cool.
Yeah, really interesting. So quite a range of industries. And I think, sometimes I'm surprised by like maybe a real startup high tech out in California. They're maybe not so open to work-life balance and all of the things that I like to make sure leaders are focusing on. So very variable.
It's funny because I don't think that those types of companies really get how that really ties into retention.
They don't.
Yeah.
Sure. They don't. Yeah,
So
they're not. It is. It really is interesting.
So talk a little bit about active listening. So, what role does active listening play in effective leadership based on your observations?
Yeah, I mean, it's so important. I think in all aspects of leadership, if you're leading a group or if you're one-on-one with an employee, if you're doing a presentation, just trying to make sure that you are focusing on what the other person is saying. So many people don't practice active listening. Unfortunately, they're too concerned with sharing their own, personal views. It's something that I do believe you can kind of cultivate. You can practice active listening. You can practice the skill of really trying to listen. I know for me as a coach, it's been really important over the years to make sure that I am practicing active listening. I have to put distractions aside, meaning I have to make sure I'm in more of a quiet setting with not a lot around me to maybe distract me, and just focus on what the other person is saying, because I need to be present. I need to be there for them in order to really hear what they're saying to me. Sometimes it can be very deep-seated, complicated issues. And it sometimes is easy to miss some of the subtle cues if you're not really focusing on another person.
I love that. And that's, I think, again, as we continue to talk about these topics, so much of it is that retention, and that's where it drives profitability. I
No
think
problem.
that hidden cost of turnover, right? It's just people just don't get that sometimes.
Oh, yeah, no question. Exactly.
Yeah.
I know.
Running a business is hard. Developing your people shouldn't be. At Human Power Solutions, we act as your outsourced chief learning officer, designing custom learning and development experiences that actually move the needle. No fluff, no cookie cutter workshops, just results. Whether your people need better communication, stronger leadership, or less burnout, we provide strategic solutions that align with your goals and keep your team moving forward. Visit hpowersolutions.com and unlock your team's full potential without disrupting operations.
So when we think about like at Owls and, through WorkWell webinars, you address these complex issues, which, I mean, the burnout, the substance misuse, which I think we all need to be thinking more about that. The anxiety and depression that comes along with all of this. How do these wellness programs directly influence team dynamics in that communication and productivity, and why are they such the key elements for building a people first culture?
So when I'm talking with employer groups about team dynamics and all of that, so communication always comes into play, making sure that employees are communicating with one another. Like you just talked about a couple of minutes ago, a lot of these remote work situations can be difficult. I know for me at Owls, the employees are all over the country. So we were all, on Zoom. And so we would have weekly meetings, our Monday morning meeting, which was great because we were all together, we were talking and just making sure we were communicating effectively and clearly so people understood tasks and roles and responsibilities. Super important. And I think really just trying to encourage employees to feel comfortable reaching out for help, if they're feeling overwhelmed and they're just not feeling like they can finish a project on time or whatever it is they're working on, but sending the message that, their teammate is there to help them, their leaders are there to help them, make that, kind of a message that you can communicate to people so they feel comfortable.
I think those especially with remote teams, having those touch bases. We have a meeting every Monday morning, and the last 2 weeks we haven't because of Thanksgiving and travel. And, and you can feel like, wait, we need to get together,
Exactly. Yeah.
So
It's
important.
such an important time.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, you presented on topics like resilient leadership, which I love, healthy corporate cultures, emotional eating. How do these connect to the ideas that investing in your internal customers, your employees, leads to better external customer service and profits?
Yeah, well, that's the whole concept of the importance of both physical and emotional well-being and wellness. I just have always believed in that very strongly. And, I, as you know, spent a lot of time focusing on mental health with people. And that's something I do believe in, as well as the physical component. So, looking at the whole person, body and mind, and making sure that they are well, because they are so interrelated. And what I find when I'm talking with people, maybe I'm doing a talk on emotional eating, the other aspects of wellness usually will come in: depression, anxiety, everything else. So everything's so kind of intertwined and related.
Yeah.
And
I think that it's so true. If you're not feeling well, you're not going to interact well internally with your colleagues, and your clients may or may not get the best, of you. And I think a lot of leaders miss that,
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think so too. I think so too. Which is why it's so important for them to be really, attuned to their employees.
Yeah. So, employers recognize, so we talk like employers recognize that healthier employees are more productive. From your experience with the Work Well or Once program, what are some of the standout practices companies use to integrate wellness into leadership and reduce turnover? I'd love for our audience to hear, like, what are the best companies doing?
Yeah, we just had our award ceremony about a month ago. Super exciting, just to kind of see why were these companies selected. And several of them actually have been selected for many years, which is so exciting.
Nice. Yeah.
Um, you know, for there's a lot of criteria. There's a lot of reasons, but one of the big reasons is employee satisfaction. Are the employees happy? Are the employees productive and staying? Low turnover? Are they excited to be at work? Are they enjoying, their work? Because let's face it, we spend many hours in the workplace, right?
Right.
So it's super important to make sure it's an environment that's one that the employees are really thriving and excited about. So that's one for sure. And also opportunities for growth. Many companies do provide a lot of opportunities for employees to learn new skills, new trainings. So that's one aspect of the components, as well as just examples of teamwork and team building initiatives. We see a lot of companies that really are trying hard to develop their teams, company offsites, really trying to encourage that kind of work ethic as a team. So it's pretty interesting and really exciting to see.
Are there different benefits and things that these companies are offering that other companies may not be, in terms of employee benefits, fitness programs?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I've heard a few of the companies mention, like paid time off for volunteering. That to me is like fabulous, right?
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, so they literally get paid to go volunteer. Basically insisting on time off. A lot of companies won't do that, but there's some companies that will insist the employees actually take that vacation time. And so many times people will say to me, "Oh, in Europe, we take weeks and weeks off," but we all know in the United States we do tend to work a lot longer. So some of these companies really are encouraging the employees take their time off, which is so great.
Yeah, I think that when you really look at the benefit package, is how can we really, that's how we really incorporate it into making your employees do the things they do.
Flexible spending, for health and wellness, like massage and acupuncture.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's great to see this for sure. We see it in companies like Google, and because I've done a lot of presentations on which companies are actually following these rules, So you see like these big, like Amazon, right? The ones that we know. But also, some of the smaller companies that don't have the big budgets, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I think the smaller companies that don't have the big budgets understand the cost of turnover and the cost of losing good employees.
Exactly. So true.
Yeah. So let's think about change. Right? Change is happening everywhere. We continue to have this ever changing environment in our workplace. What strategies do you recommend for fostering resilience and optimism, especially in these high stress environments where people don't really know what's coming around the corner? And resiliency lack of resiliency and high negativity seems to be running rampant these days. What are some of the strategies you think people can use to change that?
Yeah, it's a great question, Sandy. It is a tough time, I think, and it has been tough times, I think, for a lot of people for many years. And we'll always have times in our life that are ups and downs and stressful and everything else. A lot of what I'm doing when I'm working with groups is really trying to help people to focus on strategies to build up their resilience. And the owner of the company I used to work with, Dr. Bennett, developed a resilience coach training program. And we help people to focus on strategies to basically become more resilient. And it's really exciting to think that we actually can become more resilient. I love helping people in that space. Mindset's a big focus as well. I do a lot of trainings on mindset shifts and really helping people to go through the process of kind of changing their mindset from the negative to the positive. And I'm making this seem really simple, and it's a long process, but trying to help people to kind of alter their way of thinking is really exciting, in my opinion.
Is there any tips, anything that someone can do that's listening right now that might be in that space and be like, I need a tip? Is there anything you can provide for them?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of almost like little steps you can take to become a more positive person in life, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that you can do. I mean, everything from surrounding yourself with positive affirmations, which is something I do. With my computer right now, I have a sign here: if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. And my whole office is covered with things like that. Live, laugh, love, attitude is everything. I'm all about positive affirmations. I start my morning with 3 positive affirmations before I can even get out of bed. And I think just really trying to focus on changing your mindset to one that tends to be more of what's described as a growth mindset, a positive way of looking at things, is a really fantastic way to kind of move forward in this very bumpy road that we're all on.
Yeah.
I know I've been through a lot in my life. I know we all have. And when I do presentations like on resilience and mindset shifts, I always share parts of my journey, just the way we heard today with that fantastic speaker. And just kind of sharing my own stories has been really powerful, I think, for the listeners. And I think it helps them to feel that they can also share, which is so great, because it's almost like they feel like they're in a safe space. So I try to get that safe space, if it's one-on-one or a group setting, or whatever it is I'm doing.
I think that's interesting. I think a lot of times leaders kind of come across and they have this almost like, air or this persona that they put forth. I think people really appreciate some honesty and some vulnerability, and
no question.
I think that helps to build resiliency. Before you and I got to know each other, you had no idea what's in the background of my life. Right?
Oh yeah, exactly.
Right. No idea.
Right. No idea. I know. It is fascinating. Well, we describe that, as the resilience story. So what we would say is, when we do our resilience trainings, is we say to people, we all have resilience stories. Yeah. And sometimes people will say, well, I don't know, not really. Like, I can't really think of anything in my life that's like big. And then we'll say, well, just think about it a little bit more. Try and think a little bit more. And usually they'll do that with another person. So like pair it in 2. And with a little bit of time, they'll start to remember, well, you know what? That actually was a really big thing. And I got through it, right? And so we like to remind people that they have resilience. Yeah. And even though they might think, oh, I'm not really a resilient person, and it's nice to help them to see that they actually are.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, really powerful.
So I'm going to put you on the spot. I'd love to have you share a story from one of your coaching or a presentation that you did where you were emphasizing employee wellness, and that actually turned around a team's performance or addressed the leadership gap. Can you grab a story?
Okay, let me think about this. So when I do a lot of presentations on work-life balance, because that's definitely one of my more popular requests, I do like to get some engagement from the audience. Sometimes I can't if there's too many people on the webinar. There's just no room for that. But in some of the smaller webinars, it has been a very interactive kind of experience. And a couple of the employees shared, they were really honest. And they said, this is an environment where I don't feel I'm able to practice this term called the work-life balance. We're asked to really work around the clock in this company. Many of us are completely burned out. It's just kind of like the message we get from senior leadership. So I thought it was great that a few of these employees were so transparent in sharing with me exactly what was going on in their company.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you do anything with that?
I mean, it's a little bit of a touchy subject.
I know.
It's been a little difficult, but I did have some managers there, which
Yeah.
is great. And
That's
I
good.
just, they were kind of noting things, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. A lot of times I'll do a series of things and then I'll send, here's my recommendations from the series. So it wouldn't be one particular thing, but it's hard when you get that feedback as a facilitator. And
It's really hard.
and there's times that I'll be like, I'm going to get fired, but I'm going to tell you this.
Yeah, right. And I think in those situations, sometimes what I've found is doing like a questionnaire beforehand can be helpful as well, because it gives me a sense, okay, what's exactly going on in this organization? How are the employees feeling and what's happening? And it helps me to gauge what's going to happen in what webinar, the training.
That's great. That's great. So looking ahead, what do you see as some of the emerging trends in the workplace wellness that are going to help organizations avoid this talent treadmill, or revolving door, whatever you want to call it? What do you see as the emerging trends for wellness?
I think we hear so much about burnout nowadays, which is fantastic, in the sense that I think employers are recognizing that employees could become what's known as burned out. I don't feel like I heard about that term burnout like 10, 15 years ago. I don't know. I hear about it so often. And that's another one of the most requested webinars is burnout. So I do think that the employers are going to try not to have this happen with their employees. And like you said earlier, they need to understand that if they want to keep their employees, they need to make sure they're treating them well, giving them those opportunities for growth, giving them the support that they may need, giving them that day off, giving them a flexible work environment if maybe they have an aging parent or if they have young children they have to go pick up after school once a week, whatever it is, trying to be that employer of choice.
Okay. That's awesome. All right. So now this is the part that I didn't warn you about because it's really fun.
Okay.
So I've got some rapid fire questions for you. There's only 5 of them. So these are questions that you just answer just without really thinking too much about it. Okay.
Okay. All right. I think I'm ready.
Okay. You ready? Okay. So what's your number one quick tip for leaders to combat burnout in under 5 minutes?
Compassion, really listening to your employees, really making sure you understand what's going on for them on a personal and professional level, doing that active listening and really, really listening.
Awesome. Okay. What's one word that sums up the power of heart-centered leadership?
Compassion.
That's okay. Favorite mindset shift you've seen transform a team's culture?
The power of the group.
Oh, love that. Okay. Quickest wellness hack for better sleep that busy professionals swear by?
Get outside in the morning. That early morning light, so important.
Okay. All right. Most surprising benefit you've witnessed from prioritizing employee self-care?
Employers are happier. They also recognize the importance of self-care. So many people actually don't practice self-care until they're reminded of the importance of self-care.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Great. So, okay, thank you so much for sharing your invaluable insights on transformational leadership, wellness integration, and how prioritizing people truly drives your business. It's been really inspiring to hear how your work aligns with creating resilient, high-performing teams. For our listeners who want to connect with you or learn more about the Work Well webinars, where can they reach you?
You can email me at cynthia@workwellwebinars.com. Feel free to reach out anytime. And Sandy, I just want to thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today. And I look forward to talking with you in the future.
I do too. We're going to drop all your links below. We'll drop your website and everything else will be in the comment section here. So I really appreciate you being on today. For those of you, For those of you, if you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and share the People Profit podcast with your network. It helps us spread these game-changing ideas to more leaders and organizations. You can also, take a look at our website, go to the peopleprofitbook.com website, and dive deeper into some of these strategies with the Work Well webinars as well. So thank you for tuning in, and remember, invest in your people, and the profits will follow. Until next time, see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a wrap on this episode of the People Profit Podcast. If you found a nugget of wisdom or even just a spark of inspiration, share the love, subscribe, leave us a review, and pass the episode along to a colleague who's ready to build a people-first culture. Big thanks to our sponsor, Human Power Solutions, for championing workplace where humans thrive and profits rise. Want to learn how they can energize your team? Head over to hpowersolutions.com to get started. I'm Sandra Coker, reminding you that when you invest in people, you invest in profit. See you next time.